Perek Gimel Halacha Gimel Shofar. Hilala hi she'anu kohen trua. The wailing sound is what we call a trua. V'hanocha, and the groaning sound zu achazu, one after the other. She'anu kohen oiso shloisha shvorim. We call them the three broken sounds. Let's go to the Peirush. In Chazal, this is called trua. The question of what trua means, it's not a straight blast, it's only regarding trua. Chazal trua, it means a wailing sound. And hanocha, which is a groaning sound, one after the other, is what we call shivorim. Differently than the word trua, which is made up of 9 short blasts. And shivorim is only 3 notes, longer ones. Thus, therefore it turns out that the order of the blowing is as follows. First you make a bracha Shofar, and also Shechionu, and he's Tekiyat Kiyah, you blow at Kiyah. And then 3 broken sounds. And then afterwards 9 small sounds. And then 1 long blast. And you repeat this order of a long blast, 3 short blasts, and 9 tiny blasts, and then a long blast, because you have to hear 3 truos. And the second order, you blow a tekiah, a long blast, and then 3 medium blasts, and because maybe that is a trua, and afterwards 1 long blast, and you repeat that as well 3 times. The third order, in order to fulfill all possibilities, is tekiah, is a long blast, the 9 tiny blasts, which is like a wailing sound, and then a long blast, and you and you repeat this 3 times. In the Gemara Rosh Hashanah 34a, it says Aravu enacted in the city of Kisari, you should blow at Kiyah 3 short blasts, a trua, 9 tiny blasts, a Kiyah, and 1 long blast. So the Gemara says, why do you do both of them together, a short and the tiny? If trua means wailing, let's just do wailing, 9 tiny blasts. And if it means 3 groans, let it be just 3 groans. And the Gemara answers, right, that was the question of Avu. Is trua either a groan or a wail? Now, Avu a question to him, if we'll say that trua is wails and shvorim create a break between the first blowing to the trua, is that the question? And any sounds that happen that are not correct will invalidate what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have a long one and wailing sounds, and a long one, then the groaning sounds are an interruption between the first blast and the following. Ravina adds the question, if trua is 3 medium blasts, the trua would cause a break between it to the tekiah that's afterwards if he does a wailing sound of 9 afterwards. So the Gemara says that shebenoisav l'shashrat, in addition to blowing a long one, a medium size, 3 medium, 9 short, tiny, long one, we also blow just to be sure that they were not causing the wrong sounds to break. It's a sequence that we blow tashat, which is tekiah from trua. which means a long blast and 3 groaning sounds and then a long blast. And we also blow to tarat, which is a long blast, 9 tiny blasts, and a long blast. And therefore, in any case, we have fulfilled our obligations as we do it 3 times each of them. So we see in the Gemara that because of the doubt what is a trua, and whether it is a groan or a wail. But the reverse, to do wailing and then do groaning, that we don't do, because for sure if the sounds are supposed to be sort of to be in place of a person's crying, a person begins crying with groans and then he goes into a wailing sound. It's not normal the other way around. Therefore, if the true of the Torah is both a groan and a wailing sound, the groan precedes the wailing. Therefore, the Torah writes in Orach Chaim 590 that it's enough to do a tkiyah and 3 groans, and right away 9 wailing sounds, and afterwards a long sound. We do it 3 times, and then we do, as we said, blowing and a groaning sounds, 3 groaning sounds, and a blast, a long blast again 3 times, and afterwards a blowing sound, a wailing sound, and a blast 3 times. The Torah bases this question on the words of the Targum and Onkelos, when we find in Bamidbar 29:1 that Trua is Yevova. Yevova. The Targum for Trua is Yevova, and we do not know what kind of a cry it is. And therefore, he has to do both groaning alone and wailing alone, because by groaning and wailing, the wailing sound might be a separation between the groaning and the last blast, and the groaning sound might be a separation between the first blast and the wailing blast. And even though you don't have to blow continuously, but if it is a sound that's not supposed to be there, that does invalidate the section that was blown. And the Rambam writes this as well, and that's the main ruling regarding this. The Rambam then writes, Nimsa, and thus we find Minyanat Shloshim, that there are actually 30 sounds. Why? Because if we count the long blasts with the groans and the wailing and the long blasts, and we count that as 4 distinct notes, as opposed to the long blast and the groans and the long blast is 3, and the long blast and the wailing sound and the long blast is 3. We multiply that by 3, that means 4 times 3 is 12, 3 times 3 is 9 is 21, and 3 times 3 is 9 again, so we have 30 sounds. Okay, let's tell him about something. This is all done so that we do not have any doubt that we have fulfilled our obligation. From here, the Lechem Mishnah says that if you blow the 4 blasts, you can blow them with a break of a long of breathing, and you don't have to do it continuously. In other words, the middle sounds, which are groaning and wailing, can be done separately. But certainly the blowing of the 3 groans, that has to be done with 1 continuous blowing. The proof is from what it says, therefore we have 30. In other words, you consider 30 breaths. You have the long one is 1 breath, the 3 short and the 9 tiny ones are 2 more blasts because of different notes, and therefore the long blast afterwards causes it to be 4. The Ramban's opinion is that also the wailing sounds, you do it both with the groaning and the wailing together together, because maybe the trua that's mentioned in the Torah is this combination. And even though that they're different in their sounds, they are one continuous crying sound, and therefore you should not separate between them by breathing. Magen Mishnah says one has to be fearful to his words, to do both of them with one breath. He wants to do a lot of more than three groaning sounds, make 4 or 5, he may do so, but as long as he doesn't separate between them with a breath. Rae Gann's opinion is that if all 3 short blasts, you do them with one breath, but not the groaning and wailing sounds together with one breath, because a person normally uses different breaths, even though he's crying, groaning, and then crying. Beis Yosef writes that the Mordechai and the Rav agree with the opinion of Rabbeinu Tam. There are those who say that if the groaning and the wailing has to be done in one breath, because they're considered like one sound of a trua, and that's what we call trua. It has to be, whenever we have one grouping, it has to be done with one breath. Beis Yosef brings a proof to the Rambam from Rabbi Yehuda in Sukkah 53b that tkiya, trua tkiya, achasi, and that the blowing of the long, the wailing and the long is one mitzvah. Mordechai says this is not a proof, because Rashi there explains that you can separate the long from the wailing and the wailing from the long with a breath. Even according to the Rambam, Nachmanides, that you need to do the groaning and the wailing with one breath. Beis Yosef writes that you have to separate between them a little bit, like it happened in blowing when they blew in the Mikdash on Yom Tov. They used to blow the shofar not only on Rosh Hashanah for the mitzvah of shofar, and we find that if Yom Tov happened Erev Shabbos, they would blow a long blast and a wailing sound with one breath. And Rashi says still you can separate between them, and that's the opinion of the Rambam, that Shvorim Trua, that only the groaning and the wailing have to be with one, but you can separate between them, but not with the amount of a breath. The question is how long that would be. The Trumas Hadeshin cites that according to the Rambam, that the groaning and the wailing are considered 2 separate voices. That's why he gets to 30, and only that's how you get to the reckoning of 30. And since the majority of the commentaries count 30, so that they would see that they consider the groaning and the wailing of the portion called Tashrat, 4 as separate notes, except for the Ritz Geyes and the Rosh. Going to them, you have to do it with one breath. Therefore, they only counted as 27 voices, because you have always 3 in every set. There's only 3. There's no 4. And even though a person does not groan and wail with the same breath, since the trua is groaning and wailing, therefore, as far as the Torah trua is concerned, it has to be without a break. Therefore, you should do it with one breath. Now, if you made a break between the tkiya and the trua, the Beis Yosef infers from the words of the Magen Mishnah that only if he wants to separate between the groaning to the later long blasts may he do so. But if he wants to do them with one breath, he may do so as well. Even those who count 30 tkiyas, it doesn't mean that you have to, when you blow the tkiya, you have to stop, and then you have to blow the middle part, and then you blow the last part. And he writes that it's better to stop even between the groaning and the wailing, and you should not do it with one breath, meaning you should not wait for the separation more than it takes a person time to take a breath. From the Rosh, it would seem you should not make any break between them, and therefore it's better to establish a custom to blow Tashrat 6 times. 3 times the groaning and the wailing together, and 3 times with the groaning and then a breath and then the wailing. The Rambam, we explained further that the reason this is not the custom, it could be because you rely on Rav Hai, that according to his opinion, you blow the 3 orders only because there were different customs. They would blow, there were areas that blew 4, but they had a tradition that the Trua was groaning and blowing and wailing. There were places that only had the tradition that it was only groaning. There was a place that had a tradition that was only wailing. The Ravu established and enacted that all of them should be done so that we don't have 2 separate Torahs. And according to him, if you blow one order by itself, you'd also fulfill the obligation because we have such a tradition. And certainly those people who are unfamiliar with blowing cannot discern if somebody groans and wails with one breath or with 2 breaths. Therefore, you don't have to blow it 6 times. Either you do it with 1 breath, the groaning and the wailing portion, or you do it with 2 breaths. After the fact, it's valid. Peirush says we have a custom to blow at the beginning of Musaf, after, in other words, in the Musaf, after we say there's the Rosh Hashanah Machon Nesher has 9 blessings. On Yom Tov we have 7. On Shabbos we have 7. During the weekday we have 18 or 19, however it's counted. But on Rosh Hashanah for Musaf, they used to do it for all of Rosh Hashanah, but on Musaf we have 9 blessings. The first 3, the last 3, and the intermediate ones are called crowning the king, remembrances, and blowings. And we blow them. When we do blow there we don't blow 3 sets of the same, but we blow all 3 types of possibilities, meaning groaning and wailing together with or groaning alone and wailing alone, always preceded and followed by a long blast. Therefore, what we do before we stand to pray, there he says we should do the groaning and blowing with 1 breath, and then you fulfill the obligation according to everyone. However, when you're praying according to the Sephardic minig, you're blowing in the middle of the silent and the public, we don't know, Musaf, and you're blowing together with the blessings. After you finish each of the 3 different types of blessings, you should do it with 2 breaths, in order to fulfill the custom of the Tumas Hadeshim. As we mentioned, you really only have to have 9, and once we finish before Shemona Esrei the 9, then the others that we blow during the repetition of the Shemona Esrei or during the Shemona Esrei, would be to fulfill the other 9. In other words, we have everything, every possibility covered. But the Darkei Moshe, the Ramah writes that the minhag in Europe was, was in the Middle East, was to do it everything with 2 breaths, the groan and the wailing, and he did not know anyone who does it with 1 breath. The Bach writes, the minhag today is to do it with 2 breaths, and one should not change it. Because after the fact, you fulfill your obligation in any case. Still, those that have a custom to blow the groaning and the wailing with 1 breath should not change their minhag. The Ogur writes that he saw there are some who enacted he should only have 1 breath, and many times he himself blew with 1 breath. La Halacha, Shulchan Aruch in 590 writes that the 3 blasts of the shvurim, that it must be with, that's an intermediate blast. The groaning has to be with 1 breath, but the 3 blasts of the groaning and wailing that are found in Tashrat, there are those who say you don't need to have 1 breath, on condition that you don't wait between them more than the time of a breath. And there are those who say you have to do it as 1 breath, and somebody who's fearful of heaven will fulfill all the obligations. When we blow before the silent, the Shemona Esrei, the silent Amida, there it should be blown with 1 breath, and when we do it standing, praying, or in the repetition of the Shemona Esrei, you should do it with 2 breaths. But the Ramah writes that the meaning is to do everything with 2 breaths, and you shouldn't change that. The Mishnah writes, therefore it's best that the custom is that is somebody who calls out what should be blown, and therefore he's called a makra, just like about Kaira who reads the Torah. For somebody who reads forth what should be blown, so when he says shvorim trua, if it's going to be with 1 breath, you should say shvorim trua with 1 breath, because if after the shvorim will wait until the person, if he says shvorim and then the person blows 3 and he'll say trua, and then it could be that that's a separation more so than a breath of a person, and that certainly is invalid according to everyone. They asked of Rae Gann, until Rav Avu came along and said you should do the groaning and wailing, what they didn't do Tkiyah Shofar, and he answered that in the early days there was a custom in all Yisrael. Some did it this way, some did it as wailing, some did it as groaning, some did it together, and everyone fulfilled their obligation. And it was, however, it looked like there were 3 sets of Jews, because the Chachamim of these admit that the wailing is also a trua, and the Chachamim of these also admit that the groaning is a trua. Avu saw that it's an act that all of Israel should be doing the same thing, and therefore people who are unlearned should not take it to be something that was being evolved in each community on its own. The Rivon Tshuva writes, for this reason, when we blow in the silent prayers, meaning with the blessings of coronation and memories and blowings, we do it only 1 time each possibility, even though we have to have 9 blasts together. So the only way you can count it as 9 blasts is if you consider all 3, even though they're all different, being valid. That's many of the early commentaries saying that in Malchus you blow, no, if you get 9 blasts, to be sure you have to do the same formation each time, either the groaning and wailing 3 times, and Zechronis groaning alone, and the shofar is only wailing. But if the Ravu was because of a question of what the halacha is, that you have to blow all three different types, because maybe the wailing sound that is mentioned in the Torah, which we call trua, is really a groaning sound. And if a blow by Malchi is only the groaning or wailing, he will not fulfill any obligation. And also when he blows in Zechrenis only groaning, he won't fulfill his, or by Shavers only wailing, maybe he didn't fulfill his obligation. But certainly all the 30, they are true. A person fulfills his obligation by any one of them. However, not to cause the community to have to wait or be involved with all possible combinations. It's enough for us one of them. And also, this will clarify to everyone that they are all valid and one fulfills their obligation. Therefore, the Ritva writes that first we do like Havu, we blow 4 blasts, and afterwards, like the Brisa, then we blow 3, and the last part, like the Mishnah, to blow the wailing sounds. To go upwards in holiness, to start with Ravu, who is the latest of the people that we mentioned as tradition, and then like the Brisa, which is prior to him, and then we do the Mishnah, because we go up in holiness. We see this in Brachos 28a, that this is a rule, and this is beautifully woven. Beis Yosef concludes that the Rambam and the Smag would seem that it's a questionable what it is, and because we don't know what true is, what wailing is, but and before Avu came and established, every place had their tradition. Avu took together all of the questions and the possibilities, and he enacted that we do as we do today to fulfill the obligations without doubt. He doesn't mean that it's, when he says the word, that it was a disagreement, but he means to say that the author of the Mishnah said how they did it in his place, which was what was considered the trua mentioned in the Torah. At the time of the Brisa said how they did it in his place, which was the broken sound, and that answers a lot of questions, because the Mishnah and Brisa do not disagree. They're not disagreeing as to what the sound is. And so the Rambam explains in his explanation on the Mishnah. The Beis Yosef writes, the Rambam disagrees on Rav Haigoin. These are the opinion, but we blow all 3 different possibilities because we're in doubt. Migdal Oiz is the opinion that's the opinion that is the opinion of the Rambam, and he concludes, and it is correct, and even as far as the secret, the truthful path, which usually refers to the Kabbalah or the Zohar, there is a special secret hidden in why we blow it in this fashion.